he is laying a foundation. He is laying a foundation for Nigeria without oil, for the future of Nigeria without oil. Come to think of it, since last year, oil revenue has progressively dwindled. And without non-oil revenues, where do you think this country would have been? So everything that he's doing now, the technology that he's deploying, the reforms that he's implementing are all geared towards laying a foundation for a country, for a Nigeria without oil.
That was a testimonial on the hard work being done by the Executive Chairman FIRS, Muhammad Nami, at the FIRS in particular, but more importantly, for the Nigerian state with a view to winning Nigeria from her dependence on oil revenue. That goal, that objective is the central focus of our offering today on this holiday episode of Tax Matters. Yes, holiday episode. It is Eid el-Kabir, the Muslim feast of sacrifice. We rejoice with all our Muslim compatriots and wish us all happy celebration. As you go and come from your various villages and towns, drive safely. Drive to stay alive, and remember, in keeping with the spirit of sacrifice which Eid el-Kabir represents, we must all sacrifice to keep this country, Nigeria, going. To the business of the day. To make Nigeria less dependent, or better still, non-dependent on revenue from oil is a task that must be done, and at the FIRS, all hands are on deck to make this a reality. Last week, the Executive Chairman FIRS, Chairman Joint Task Board, hit the road very early in the morning of Monday, July 12th. Destination, the ancient city of Kano, the economic hub of northern Nigeria. The goal, to first and foremost touch base with staff of the FIRS and with stakeholders, and to preach the gospel of tax promise, the new tax solution introduced by the service to make tax compliance an enjoyable experience. First to hold was the meeting with staff of the FIRS from Jigawa, Kano and Katsina region. On the entourage of the Executive Chairman, we are a member representing the Northwest on the board of the FIRS, Alhaji Ado Danjuma, the Coordinating Director, Compliance Support Group, Mr. Dick Iri, Board Secretary, Mrs. Nneka Ifeokwuna, and the newly appointed Group Lead, General Tax Operations Group, Mr. Kabiru Abba. The Executive Chairman of FIRS began by duly recognizing the labor, the sacrifice, and doggedness of the staff of the service.
My distinguished friends, the movers and shakers of Federal Inland Revenue Service, the entire staff of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, I'm privileged to be in your midst this morning. My very sincere appreciation goes to every officer who has been working assiduously towards achieving all the targets, including revenue targets, set for the FIRS in the year 2021. I reiterate once more that the support and doggedness of these officers shall be recognized duly and will be rewarded in due season.
Mr. Nami reiterated the sterling performance of the FIRS in the month of June 2021, pointing out that against the parlous state of the economy and the predictions of naysayers, the service collected a whopping sum of 650 billion naira against 526.6 billion naira collected in the corresponding period in the year 2020. a positive variance of 20%. Having started off on that positive note, the executive chairman lodged into his advocacy of the new tax administration solution, Tax Pro Max, which is surely set to take tax collection higher.
A careful study of the tax environment shows that the way business is conducted has changed drastically over the years. The traditional brick and mortar business model has given way to online digital model. As such, tax administrative strategies that were built on manual processes continued to fail because under the law, the tax authority can only tax taxpayers and transactions that are physically located in their own respective jurisdictions. Consequently, and in order to track all physically invisible taxpayers and transactions, management deployed the Tax Pro Max for tax administration beginning from June 2021.
On the gains from Tax Pro Max so far.
As at 30 June 2021, through Tax Pro Max, we will be able to register people online about 195 and 986 taxpayers. We also, through Tax Pro Max, are be able to issue tax receipt online. E-receipt local was 431,000 receipts, foreign receipt 3, e-credit not local 408,000, e-credit foreign 8,000, e-TCC issued so far in just 6 months is 58,881.
Following Mr. Nami's speech was a robust question and answer session. But before then, these interventions from members of the executive chairman's entourage.
When we were young, we used to hear about jangali, another form of taxes. But all of a sudden, all these things disappeared, to the extent that this country has become a country that is not a tax country. Not much is generated. Why? It's because we are not harnessing our resources. And how? It's because we are not committed.
And this ray of hope.
With the advent of technology now, the Tax Pro, for example, once it's fully embraced, you will see how July's collection is going to be. And I can bet you it's going to be higher than the 650 that were recorded in June.
Now to the floor.
Another issue as far as the MSTOs is concerned, that is an impediment to collection in MSTO is the threshold of below 25 million. Because a lot of taxpayers now are hiding under that threshold issue. Either not to file, or even when they file, they will not pay. And by law, we have little or nothing to do, because the law has given them the liberty not to pay.
The Finance Act 2019 introduced a provision aimed at granting succor to small business holders, whereby companies with turnover below 25 million naira now pay zero companies income tax, while the medium-sized ones, whose turnover is between 25 million and 100 million naira, pay companies income tax at the rate of 20%. This was further followed up in the Finance Act 2020 with a provision that exempts companies with turnover below 25 million naira from acting as agents of collection of VAT. Now, it has been discovered that taxpayers are taking undue advantage of these well-intentioned provisions. Mr. Nami reacted to this development this way.
On the issue of threshold of 25 million and below, we have come to realize that taxpayers are exploiting it to the extent that when they do business and get into that threshold, they lodge money into their personal account or other accounts associated with them. The thing we are trying to do with Tax Pro And the things we are trying to do with intelligence, data mining and analysis is to be able to come up with what Alhaji Ado was talking about, an in-house built blockchain technology, so that using data that we are going to generate, we are able to, going forward, link every economy activities to national identification number. So if you are going to pay taxes, you use national identification number. If you are going to buy a car in the market, you use your national identification number. If you are going to register your vehicle, you are going to disclose your national identification number. When you go to land, to register land that you have purchased, you do use national identification number as it is done all over the world. That is what is simply called blockchain technology. We're already working on that, and I want to assure you by the end of September this year, we're likely to come live nationally.
We tell you there is no hiding place for tax dodgers. Still on tax debtors, this update or this clarification, if you like.
It's no longer an issue of lien placement. We have now used Section 54 and Section 131 of our Establishment Act. When, like the MCN we are doing, we are not telling the banks to place lien. As credits are coming, push them to federation account. So if you have a recalcitrant taxpayer that does not want to remit taxes to you, you just send that request to CD enforcement or directly to debt management team. The people that are there today are very efficient people. They've gone to seal so many companies already, and we are just starting, because for any company that we place lien on today, we are no longer going to lift it until credit that keep coming to that account is sufficient enough to settle the liability.
End of discussion.
Do you provide goods and services? Then you must answer these important questions. Are you registered for VAT? Do you charge VAT on the goods and services you provide? Do you keep records of all your transactions? Do you file VAT returns? Do you remit VAT collected to government coffers? If your answer to any of these questions is no, then you are breaking the law. The law demands total compliance. Therefore, you must register for VAT. You must charge VAT on goods and services. You must file VAT returns. And you must remit all VAT collected on behalf of government within 21 days to the bank nearest to you. To do otherwise is a crime punishable everywhere in the world. VAT is prescribed by the law. Do the right thing. Collect and pay VAT. This message is from the FIRS. It pays to pay your tax.
Still in Kano, on the same day, Monday, July 12th, Mr. Nami moved from the meeting with staff to yet another meeting, this time an engagement with stakeholders, business owners, auditors, tax consultants. Mr. Nami flagged off the meeting with this background.
Presently, Nigeria's economy relies heavily on non-oil revenues to discharge its statutory responsibility of even payment of salaries, provision of social amenities, not to talk of even other critical infrastructures. For many years, our revenue generation architecture have been largely manual with limited use of technology. Adopting technology in tax administration is crucial in improving domestic revenue mobilization in view of the dwindling oil prices in order to avoid falling into further debt crisis. We must recognize and adapt to the changing pattern of business environment, whereby technology is the driver of business operations.
In that regard, Mr. Nami, like he did earlier in the morning at the meeting with staff, launched into an advocacy of the tax pro max.
Also that since last year, we decided to introduced Tax Pro March, and precisely on the 7th of June 2021, Tax Pro March became the channel for filing Naira-denominated tax return to the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
With regard to tax debt cases,
another key thing I wanted to discuss with you again outside deployment of technology is the recent FIRS practice direction, which we introduced, and is another innovation introduced to aid revenue generation by cutting down on needless litigation, which slows down revenue collection. Cases of FIRS, for instance, going forward will be given accelerated hearing and priority in the Federal High Court nationwide. The practice direction will enable FIRS to obtain order of the court for forfeiture of immovable property of taxpayers. 1, freezing of bank accounts. 2, access to books. 3, and servers, billing system, etc. It will fast track the recovery of tax debts by civil action. You are aware that some of the cases before now have been lingering or outstanding, have been pending in the court of law for about 10-15 years. Going forward, in 6 weeks, we will begin and finish cases relating to tax-related debt.
Mr. Nami also spoke on the obligations of company owners as agents of collection for indirect taxes.
We also want to discuss and share and rub minds with you on National Tax Policy Implementation Document, which was last amended in 2017, and which also has now advised us to focus our attention on indirect taxes. Indirect taxes are taxes that your clients, are taxes that companies, are taxes that ministries, departments, and agencies help government at the three levels, but both at federal and the subnationals, to collect from their service providers, for instance, to collect from their consumers, for instance, to withhold as well at the point of payment to those service providers. Why the National Tax Policy Implementation Committee emphasizes that is that, 1, the tax, which is indirect tax, which are usually based on consumption, are difficult to dodge, very easy to pay. People will pay without even knowing they are paying it, and very easy to administer by revenue authorities. Because when you deploy technology and you have an agent who is true to the letter, who is very honest, who is committed about his country, you only collect and remit. What you do is to sell. Somebody has come to consume, and in your in selling price, if you have a product that is worth 10,000 naira, for instance, in it you have your direct and indirect cost, and in it also there is a markup. So the extra 750 naira, which is the 7.5%, you are only helping government to collect as an agent of collection. And it will be unfair for you to collect and equally keep. In some cases, people don't even remit at all. And when we get to know this going forward, we are not only going to place lien on your account, we are going to appoint banks to sweep the monies in your account, where necessary also, we go after even your properties, because indirect taxes do not belong to you.
Then the stakeholders had their say. That question and answer session, very interesting encounter we must say, will form part of our offering next episode. From Kano, we move to Abuja, still on the trail of Mr. Nami. On Thursday, the 15th of July, Mr. Nami continued his advocacy for Nigeria beyond oil. He was the special guest of honor at the opening ceremony of the regional seminar on the problems of tax transition in West Africa. The regional seminar lasted for 2 days, and it is expected that it will contribute in great measure to transit countries in the ECOWAS sub-region from resource-dependent to tax revenue-dependent countries. The meeting had in attendance stakeholders from across the ECOWAS sub-region.
It is with great pleasure that I have the honor of opening this first major stakeholders meeting of the support program for tax transition in West Africa, popularly known as PATF. This program focuses on domestic revenue mobilization. Since the establishment and effective holding of the first steering committee, the execution of the missions in progress has accelerated, making it possible to have results that can be shared by the actors of the program and the beneficiaries. Since then, we have come a long way, with results that are certainly mixed but encouraging, and which should encourage us to continue to do our work.
Recalling that PATF took off in January 2020, Mr. Nami listed some of the achievements.
These include: 1, the establishment of the steering committee. This committee brings together representatives of the ECOWAS and UEMOA commissions on the one hand, and technical assistance on the other. They commit our community space to move forward in a united manner to develop the technical and professional skills of the tax and customs administrations in order to guarantee them a better increase in domestic revenue, following the decline in revenue linked to efforts to improve the free movement of people and goods in West Africa. 2, improving the management of VAT in the region. This mission provides an opportunity to have a practical guide for VAT management. 3, improving the management of tax expenditures in the region. This mission provides an opportunity to have a regional methodology guide for the evaluation of tax expenditures. 4, the establishment of an information system specific to the UEMOA and ECOWAS commissions. It is imperative for our countries to have national databases and a regional platform. This indispensable steering body of our consultation system still lacks vitality, as it does not have institutional and financial guarantees.
For clearer perspectives on what fiscal tax transition means, Tax Matters spoke to Mr. Nami.
So when you talk about tax transition, what do you really mean by that, and what are you looking at in terms of tackling the problem of tax transition in West Africa and in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. What we're looking at is the challenges we face as member countries in terms of our capacity to mobilize revenue for our the respective countries, particularly some of us that have an economy that is solely dependent on oil and gas. So as the fortunes continue to dwindle and the issue of the free trade zone also come up, that will guarantee free movement of goods among member nations, we feel we should be in a position to brainstorm, strategize, and advise ourselves on how to, going forward, mobilize revenue, which our respective governments are going to use for funding their budgetary requirement.
We end from where we began. The task of placing Nigeria on a sound footing beyond oil has begun, and there is no going back. All hands must be on deck. Join the crusade by paying your taxes as and when due. Thank you for watching. Let's do this again next week. Bye for now.